Welcome back for part 3 in the series of how to reupholster your dining room chair. In this video, we will be applying new fabric. However, if you are interested in learning how to deconstruct your chair, make repairs, and even stain it, check out the links that I have in the description box below, and that will take you to part 1 and part 2 of this series. Here I'm just gathering some of my supplies together. If you recall from the first video, that is the base of the chair on the right, and on the left, that's the back of the chair that we deconstructed. I also have an X-Acto blade, a pair of scissors, and some fabric that I've chosen for the chair. First things first, we're going to get ready to attach the fabric to the base of the chair. So you saw the wooden base, that was the new piece that I cut out. The foam pad I kept from the chair. I tried to keep as much as I could of the chairs as long as it was still in good condition. And then this is the fabric that I chose. It's actually a vinyl fabric that looks woven, so it will be really easy to keep clean going forward. I then have a hand staple gun and a pair of scissors as well. Here, I'm just trying to get a sense for how to fit the fabric around the chair, and I want to make sure that I have enough on all sides. I focused on the straightest edge first and figured I would start pulling across from there. Because this fabric is actually a vinyl upholstery fabric, it didn't sort of pull and flex and bend the way a normal woven fabric would, so I found it a little bit more difficult than what I would have expected. And while the straight edges were fairly straightforward to pull and stretch and put the staples in, I really had to kind of work with these corners a little bit to get the vinyl fabric to really mold around them and look nice and finished when I was done. If you find that your staples are not going all the way into the wood and through the fabric and lying nice and flush, feel free to come back in with a hammer and tap them in so everything is really nice, tight, and secure. This was another tricky area of the chair, but you really just have to kind of play around with it. I wasn't quite sure how I was going to get all the fabric to bend and go in the right direction that I wanted it to, as well as concealing all the staples, but I really just had to play around with it a little bit and eventually kind of figured out how I could sort of pull and flex and hide staples accordingly. Once you're done attaching all of the fabric to the base and you feel like everything's really secure, come back in with a pair of scissors and trim any bulky excess pieces and then staple any sort of flaps down because you really want this seat to lie nice and flush on the base of the chair. The seat cushion is now done and we're ready to dry fit it in. Make sure everything fits nice and snug and is lining up nicely. In order to attach the seat cushion to the chair, you'll want to flip it over upside down and then you'll see how we're going to be drilling and attaching with screws. I did find it helpful to drill pilot holes before actually screwing the seat bottom to the base of the chair. I felt like it just gave me more confidence when drilling and making sure everything lined up correctly. Nothing was going to slip and slide out of place. Here you can see the seat cushion is attached to the base of the chair. And now we are on to the back of the chair. Here you'll see I have the fabric pieces cut out as well as the inner material of the back of the chair. There's two pieces of foam and a very thin piece of wood. And I also have my staple gun. Because the back of this chair is slightly curved, I wanted to make sure that I had cut enough fabric to maintain the integrity of that curve and also still have enough room to get the staples in. This part was actually a lot trickier than what I thought it was going to be, and I think one of the things that surprised me was because this fabric is a vinyl upholstery fabric, it doesn't have those individual fibers that the staple can really grip and hold on to. So you'll see here there were a few times where I had stapled and then I pulled on the fabric just a teeny tiny bit and the vinyl itself actually pulled apart and tore away from where I had just stapled it. I found that the best solution for this was actually changing the angle of the staple gun itself and also using my hand stapler in a few places because those staples were a bit wider, so they grabbed onto more of the vinyl, whereas the staples in the staple gun were a little bit narrower, so they just weren't grabbing as much of the fabric. Once I did that little bit of troubleshooting and made those adjustments, I found that the vinyl went on quite easily. As usual, we will want to trim any sort of excess fabric off. I now started layering the innards of the chair back, into place. So here you can see I'm kind of smushing and molding and bending that really thin piece of wood. The foam cushion goes on next, and then we put the vinyl fabric on top. We will then be stapling again all around this entire piece. For this piece, while I also use the staple gun for the majority of attaching this part of the fabric, I also did come in a couple times with the hand stapler as well, just because again, that vinyl really just had a tendency to want to tear apart. And so having those thicker, wider staples that grabbed onto more of the vinyl fabric really did help keep it in place. And again, we are trimming all the excess fabric off of here. In the final step, we will be adding trim to the chair back, to the perimeter. And I'll just be using a glue gun and some of these Gorilla glue sticks to keep everything in place. I actually found that these glue sticks are really, really strong, much stronger than anything that I had used just from the craft store, so I would highly recommend them. I started down at the base of the chair and just worked my way around, and I used, I have to say, a lot of glue. I really wanted to make sure that this trim stayed in place. And at some point, my little guy Isaac really was interested and wanted to see what I was doing. I also think he was probably trying to avoid bedtime because I was working on this pretty late at night. You'll want to make sure that for both the beginning and the end of that cording that you add additional glue just so that it doesn't unravel. And now we're done. Here's the final result. I absolutely love these chairs. It did take a fair amount of time to really pull everything apart, sand it down, refinish it, find the fabric that I liked, and reattach everything, but I could not be happier. We've been using these chairs in our dining room for a few months now, and both the finish and the fabric and the construction has held up amazingly well. They look just as good as the first day that I had finished them. I really hope that you found this series helpful. Again, this is a 3-part series, so this is the final one. But if you want to go back and watch the first or second, I will have those linked in the description box below. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and please subscribe as well. And thank you for watching.